how do we grow this influence of black leaders, men and women, that can represent our industry inside the ANC, inside the policy-making structures?
Get to grips with the digital environment, put together best practices, what works and what doesn't, very importantly.
In the project that we're doing in Chaplat, we've created a linking bridge between those two little areas there. So it becomes a matter of just 10 minutes walk from one side to the other.
So my message to our CEOs and those chief investment officers is, where at the end of the day do you want to see your role?
So by treating all of our water back to a stage where we can bring it back into the process, we're in effect saving around about 35% of our water usage on site.
Welcome to greeneconomy.tv. I'm your host and facilitator, Byron McDonald. Today on our show, we have publisher Gordon Brown from Green Economy Journal. He will be going in conversation with Brett Petzer, founder of the Green Housing Company. But before I go ahead, as I say each show, greeneconomy.tv provide insights and intelligence on all sustainability-related matters. Hi, gents. Hope you're well. Beautiful advert. I was busy punching the number into my phone. I was about to just punch it in my phone there now.
You see, my phone's right here, so you could get through.
Lovely. How have you gents been up to? What have you been up to?
Yeah, hi Brett and hi Byron. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what you've been up to, Brett. I've been running around like a chicken without a head. How about you?
Changing the world daily, just changing the world. Just in that privileged position where we can actually mean what we say and do what we're thinking, you know. So we're privileged there.
Oh, lovely. Gordon, I'm going to hand the show over to you as each week. I'll step aside. Thanks indeed, Byron, as always, and Brett, just a personal welcome from my side to the show. Great to have you. We're going to chat today about a topic that's very dear to us here at Green Economy. We're going to talk about green buildings. We're going to focus specifically within the residential sector.
where frankly there's been quite a lot of movement from a green building certification and all sorts of things happening, energy efficiency certification and all sorts of fun stuff. But you're a property developer, Brett. I'm very curious. Why is your company called the Green Housing Company? What was the inception? What was the inspiration behind that? What made it happen? And how did we come to be here talking to you today?
Well, Gordon, thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for having me, and I look forward to the time we're going to spend together. It's a privilege to be a part of your movement, so I'm grateful. The Green Housing Company was formed out of a very emotional space where I personally was caught in the crossfire of Guptagate, and that goes back to when the issues with Eskom started. So we were busy with a reasonably sized development, and that development was halted by way of the fact that the excess energy dried up, and that was a surprise to us all, because had there been any warnings that we were going into a most developed crossfire, gone ahead and purchased land. The last thing you expect as a property developer is to run out of power. It's almost like if we traveled outside of our borders into the European situation, in countries where developers don't have to question whether there's power. They buy a development, they get on site, they develop the site, they employ thousands of people at a time or hundreds of people at a time, but they no doubt have a very positive impact on the economy. So one can only just sit and try and calculate what the impact of this Eskom situation has been on the country. So, having said that, and I was caught in that crossfire, and while I was losing everything I'd ever worked for, I developed the passion to get into a situation where we could avert the inevitable. And I say that quite bravely, in the sense that I truly hope that there is a solution from Eskom's side, but in the short term, personally, I don't see it. And having said that, we hope that I'm wrong. But the thing is, we needed to provide a housing solution that was going to be a part of the solution and not taking the problem. So I foresaw that we would have water issues back then, so we started planning for water management as part of our original design of the green housing product. I'm now going, as I said, 9 years back to a suburb called Noordwijk in Midrand, and I was able to cut my teeth on developing a product that was going to be it was not going to be susceptible to the issues that are surrounding us right now. And I was right in the sense that we now see that the Eskom problem has only escalated. Where's that going to land up? That's a good question. But we have the solution rather than being part of the problem, and it's a very proud moment for me, because we've developed a housing environment we call the art of living. So it's clever, it's smart, it doesn't need heating, it doesn't need cooling. We're using cutting edge advanced technologies in our buildings, and that extrapolates into how we manage the development, and that downloads then, Gordon, into the security, which was almost your original question. So with regards to the security, a large percentage of your levy costs per month, to the tune of the 50,000-60,000 rand a month, it lies in the human guard aspect. Now, I know this goes against where we're going as a country to provide employment, but at the end of the day, we've got to look to efficiency as well. So at Green Hill, what we've done is we've taken the view where we're going to take our guarding off-site. There'll be no human interaction at the guardhouse whatsoever. There's nobody to talk to. You're going to talk to electronics. And if you're a good guy and you're supposed to be there, the gate will open. And if you aren't, then it's as simple as that. In taking this approach, though, we've taken 2/3 of those security costs out of the levy. So now we're sitting at an off-site guarding situation where we're spending 12 or 15,000 in a month, as opposed to 60,000 on human interaction. So I've just said, let's bring in things like number plate recognition, retina scanning, facial recognition, because all of this stuff is so readily available. We've teamed up with guys at Vumacam to bring that security level where you can monitor literally a person's heartbeat. You can actually communicate through camera polls to people and actually ask them, what are you doing here? Where these things are it's changing the face of how it works. I get that. And yes, is new terrain. I get that too, because what I've done single-handedly, and I've been the greenhousing company, not I as a person, my team and I we've pushed the boundaries of where this can go. It's been a lonely road. We've had to, we've met with a lot of resistance. This can't work, that can't work, and yes, you rely on people smarter than yourself. So I just had the vision, but everything we do, we double check with engineers and people way smarter than me. And we're at the cutting edge of where it is and where it can go. For developers that have been traditionally
No, great. So
gridlocked.
Brett, yeah. So Brett, you mentioned obviously that there was this lack of ability of council to supply electricity that created a crisis. Born out of that crisis, you've come up with a concept. You mentioned water, electricity, security. What I'm learning from this is that what you're speaking about is coming up with a self-sufficient development, a development that doesn't actually require council services to the greater or lesser extent. Is that how you define green within the context of the green housing company? This pursuit for self-sufficiency.
I think it's that, but it's twofold. So where we concentrate our product is that we are consuming waste. With every house we build, we are consuming waste from tires, plastic, polystyrene, whatever waste we can consume with our construction methods, we would adopt and bring in. But then when it comes to the being independent of the council and the crises that are happening around us, that is exactly where it needs to be. So once we've taken as much wastes out of waste dumps as we can in the construction, we then want to position people where they can live free of the drama that's going on around us. And when my child goes to a drinking tap, I want to be able to suggest to him to actually drink that water. I don't want to be frightened that if my child drinks water from that tap, he could potentially get sick. And we look at the news, even though I'm a hag, I'm staying, I'm part of the solution here, guys. I really am not part of these guys that sit around dooming and glooming the country. And it's rough. But if you take it one step at a time, and we start with a suburb, and I call Greenhill a suburb, even though it's a really small one. 40 houses is not a suburb, but if we look at that as a suburb, and we say, right, how can we self-sustain that we have no impact on already crowded council systems? So, I mean, at Greenhill, we've gone so far as to package the sewage. And packaging the sewage means taking out the solids, taking out the smell, taking out the bacteria, and finding a use for that water, which would have traditionally just gone down a pipe and disappeared into someone else's garden, or the river, or the dam, or something. But that human waste that's landing up in our drinking water has to have an impact at some point. So we've taken that and we've said we will manage it on site. So we literally will not use our sewage pipe. We're going to take that water and we're going to put it back into the development in underground irrigation, so that your garden will turn green all year round. You didn't even get involved there. We're not taking drinkable water. We're taking water that was traditionally wastewater, and we're using that to make the gardens green. So that's the level of thinking that's gone into this.
Right. And so So you mentioned obviously the waste in the construction process, which is super important. We all know about illegal dumping and the effect of construction waste on landfill sites. So hats off to you guys for that. You mentioned on-site water treatment, super impressive that you're doing that at a residential scale. Maybe if we got some time, I'd like to just touch on that a little bit more. Obviously, perhaps there's a composting element there. Maybe there's a composting element from food waste potentially that we can maybe chat about. But also tell us a little bit about the electrical interventions. How do you approach a single residence from a point of view of energy?
Just missed those last.
Okay, so sorry, my question was
last few words.
Yeah, conceptually, how do you guys go about? What's your process in thinking about delivering energy self-sufficiency within your development? So for each house, what elements do you consider the sort of list of things that you look at from an energy point of view for each of the households?
So if I may just backtrack into the process and how we got here with regards to where we are with the municipality of Tshwane and this development, as I said, called Green Hill. So one of the key factors in the setup was, the council very wisely raised the fact that there was a loss of revenue for developers who are now looking for solar solutions or alternate solutions. So, we dealt with that on the basis that we are going to actually create enough excess energy to feed back into the grid so that the council can still sell that energy and make the exact same amount of money as they would have out of us as users. However, we now become a producer. Now, yes, there's all kinds of legalities and, what if this and what if that. I'm just forging ahead, creating relationships, and I'm backed by a group of guys who are equally involved in finding a solution. So I'm so grateful for that. But where this thing goes is this, so we're not just a loss of revenue to them, but we in fact become an income generator for them in the sense that we've given them back excess energy. So that was the first part. In the second part, when we come into the development, we have a co-pro with the owners in the development where we're allowed to use their roof for our panels. So we put panels up onto the roof, which we maintain, we look after, we pay for as a developer. We take that energy into a central store. So I've done away with the concept of guardhouse in this development, and we're now moving to something new I like to call the nerve center. And in the nerve center, we've got the battery tech, we've got all the inverter tech, we've got a boardroom for the homeowners to come and sit and have meetings, and we've got areas for office people to run this development in the sense that I'd like to call it that we're stepping into the role of the municipality. So Tshwane municipality are stepping out of that role, and we are, as the green housing company, stepping into the role of the municipality. So we will manage the waste, we will manage the sewage systems, we will manage the solar systems, we will take care of the levy. We don't want a levy from anybody, we just want everybody to live well in this estate. And I know that's going to cause, wow, people are going, what? No levy. I can tell you in the 36 years I've been developing real estate, the ugliest things I've ever seen have been in homeowners meetings about levies. So I would like to just stamp that out like a wildfire. But this is where, we working together and owners are saying, well, fine, you put your panels on my roof, what do I get back? I get back a levy-free lifestyle. I get back set prices for my services. My water's clean, my power's on. There's a spark-free, beautiful environment where we as a family can live without the stress of realistically living in an environment where we see what's coming. The next challenge is coming in the water. That's it. It's on its way. Whereas we've taken the initiative to move ahead of that and say, right, let's get solutions on the table, people.
No, absolutely, and thanks for that. And just a quick touch point on energy efficiency. I'm very impressed about that you've managed to not just achieve self-sufficiency for electricity, but you're also able to supply back to the council.
Yes.
I'm imagining. I guess that starts with ensuring that your common area lighting and the lighting inside your homes and any air conditioning that you've got or any heating devices, that you've looked at all of those things in your initial spec as well to ensure that each of the houses inside the development actually begins by having the lowest possible consumption. Is that something you've looked at, and give us some of the highlights of that, perhaps?
So at the outset, when I began this journey, one of the key factors 9 years ago now. So one of the key factors was the electrical component of the house was a significant number. And in getting the banks to see value in backing my product, because it's all very well, you're building 2 or 3 hay bale houses on the hill and you're doing it with cash, and that's one level of building a green home. But I needed to come to the market with something that was commercially applicable. And in order to get there, I needed the banks behind me. So can you get a bond for my product? Yes, you can. So that's where we started. And at the time, the off-grid part of this equation and the solar equipment, to house ratio was significantly different to what it is now, in the sense that solar equipment was very expensive. And in order to minimize the need for that power plant, what I had to do was eliminate the need for heating and cooling. Because if you add underfloor heating and air conditioning to the power requirement of a home, you change the profile of consumption significantly. You would almost need 3 times the solar power that we use, because we have eliminated the need for heating and cooling. And how we did that was we created an insulated raft foundation system, which I think is our design, but it's primarily just an enhancement on the traditional raft foundation, where we actually add insulation into the ready mix to end up with almost an aero-styled end product, which ultimately has the ability to reject thermal transfer. So when the cold starts coming into the concrete in the winter months, it dissipates into the air pockets, and we keep our tile floor surface at 11 or 12 degrees right throughout winter. So we've eliminated the need for underfloor heating. Why do we need it? Because our tiles get so damn cold, we need to heat them up. We've kept them from getting cold. To that, we've added insulated walling systems. We work with a double glazed fenestration system based on a patent in Germany called Rehau. So we've really created an insulated space. And I got these pearls on my travels. I mean, we've all traveled. So Poland and around the world, where in Denmark, I was seeing people living in their vests when it was -degrees outside. And I thought, well, we can apply the same technology to the South African environment, because while we don't have the minuses, we certainly have the pluses. So, working in Pretoria, I've also learned that Pretoria can get hot. So if you're managing that same, but the opposite, where you're keeping the heat out and you're living in a nice, cool environment, then you can do away with air conditioning. And that's where we set off. And I must say that the support from the banks has been incredible. Obviously convincing a very sort of staid institution about the kinds of changes that we're talking about now has had its perils. But in every boardroom, I've found a supporter who's grabbed onto the vision, and so we were commercially approved very early in our journey, and getting that through was, as I say, it had its challenges, but we look forward. We don't look backwards.
Yeah, Brett, it's the things you're speaking about are things that we've been banging on about here at Green Economy Media for many years, at green building conferences and all sorts of things. You're speaking there about passive design, which obviously negates the need for mechanical interventions and so forth. So just from my side, super congratulations on all what sounds like a really holistic approach to the needs, the utility needs, if you like, of the houses inside your developments. So what does this do, and what does this mean for the country? I mean, if every developer developed like this, what would this do for the country?
Well, let's face it, in the short term, I would imagine that there must be a couple of thousand developments, opportunities for development in the country that have been frustrated by the same point of view. So if 1,000 developers suddenly can apply this technology across the board, who's got a car, who's got a garage in the Karoo, and he couldn't build a garage in the Karoo because there was no power, suddenly he can put that solar up on his roof, he can build his building, and he can get going. And therein lies jobs. I mean, where else post-corona would we find a couple of million jobs? And this precedent, which is now created in the Tshwane, can be extrapolated across the country. Smart lawyers and project managers and town planners across the country can now say, there's that mall over there that we couldn't do, now we can do it. And I mean, just in the short term, imagine in this economy where we find ourselves today, where else are we going to find a few million jobs?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a godsend.
And Brett,
again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We are a slight delay on the line, but I think that really segues into the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, what is the vision for the future? So you've developed, you've created this concept, you've rolled it out, you're underway. What does the future hold? What's your vision for the future?
My vision. So I don't have the vision. I rely on a vision from above. But as it stands right now, my vision is to have people living in an environment where they are safe, they are taken care of, there is a fair and an honest and good reciprocal arrangement in how people get those services, how those services work. There's peace, there's harmony, and most importantly, people are safe. So that's the kind of mindset that I've been. Now, how that takes form could be, I'm very excited to be finally working in the student housing environment. So we've been appointed to work on some student housing stuff. But when I come to that sort of design, I see students living in almost the same world as working for Google. So I'd like to apply the same philosophy into as many different in property environments as possible, which includes designing creches where children can be free to, look at the stars. And I don't know, I mean, it'll come when it comes. But the idea is that we live such stressful lives, and there's just more and pressure on us. Let's environment as possible.
No, 100%. And Brett, we're experiencing a little bit of a technical hiccup, but I think we fine there. Thanks very much indeed for sharing that vision and sharing your projects with us. Just in closing, and after I've asked this question, I'm going to hand you back to Byron. But can you tell us, look, what you do is not easy. It sounds easy. It sounds like you're actually solving problems, but what you do is not easy. There are actually barriers to what you're doing. There are people that are standing in the way. There are regulations, all sorts of things standing in the way. Maybe you can give us some idea, what is the way forward as you see it, and what are the barriers that stand in your way currently, and how you're going to overcome those. And with that, I say thank you once again, Brett. Please go ahead.
So yeah, Gordon, thank you. And so all I can say is, how do you eat an elephant? And are you going to take those objectives? Are they going to be barriers, or are they just going to be doors you keep knocking on? Because the way you eat an elephant is one bit at a time. And if you focus on the end goal, and this has been, my focus has been on getting to this point. And when I met with resistance, I changed my tack. I went around a different door. I went with a different approach, and I formulated it as I went, but I was guided. So I'm grateful for that. But at the end of the day, I can only say, you got to focus on the goal. You got to focus on where you want to end up. And I was motivated to find the solution sufficiently so that I would not take no for an answer. And that's all I can say to you guys out there. We need to stimulate the economy. We need to get ourselves safe. We need to protect our kids. We need to. There's writings on the wall as to where this potentially can go. And again, I'm part of the Move 1 Million movement. I'm actively trying to prevent that. But if we look at the writing on the wall and we don't engage and don't find solutions for that, imagine where we could land up. It's just, it's a no-brainer.
Love that. I took so much into that. I don't even think I can add more onto that. Thank you so much for being part of the movement and part of the show. I think Gordon's side just hopped off by accidentally, but I'll end the show just there instead of just having it on. Thank you so much for being part of the movement and onto the show. I'll just take it from here and end it.
Man, I can only say thank you for allowing me to share.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Real pleasure.
Take care.
I hope you've learned, like I do each show, there's a lot of focus and determination. And the key word there, key saying, I say, stimulate the economy, and you should take it away from there. But as I say each show, greeneconomy.tv provides insight and intelligence on all sustainability related matters.